Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We are starting the press conference of the Vilnius summit. Allow me to introduce the participants. President of Lithuania, Gitanas Nausėda, President of Poland, Andrzej Duda, President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Romania, Nicu Șordan, Prime Minister of Denmark, Mette Frederiksen, and NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte. Let me note that at first, the leaders will deliver their statements, and afterwards, you will have the opportunity
Буде можливість задати
I will now
запитання.
invite the President of Lithuania to begin. Mr. President, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. The Vilnius summit of the Bucharest 9 and Nordic countries has concluded. This year we are celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Bucharest 9. Over time, it has brought regions, countries closer together. And I am sincerely grateful to Poland and Romania for this initiative. Today's meeting, with the participation of our Nordic allies and Ukraine, highlights the growing pressure on NATO's eastern and northeast flanks and our collective efforts to address them. Given the full complexity of the present situation, I am particularly glad to welcome here in Vilnius the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte and the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy. In the face of the Russian threat, we must unify our efforts across the High North, the Baltic Sea, and the Black Sea. Also today, during the first session, we discussed extensively the preparation for the upcoming NATO summit. Our meeting in The Hague will present a great opportunity to continue building a stronger and better prepared alliance along the lines set in Madrid, Vilnius, and Washington. At the Hague summit, we expect a message of transatlantic unity, reaffirmed commitment to collective defense, and readiness to defend the allied territory. We also believe that allies will be ready to substantially increase defense investment. As we are moving towards reaching at least 5% of GDP on defense and defense-related investments, we expect the whole alliance to follow suit. Lithuania will be spending 4% of GDP on defense this year and more than 5% from the next year to 2030. Additional funds will be needed for a national heavy division, as well as for the German brigade's infrastructure, and for the host nation support to allied troops stationed in Lithuania. The Hague summit must also send a clear message that NATO stands with Ukraine. We must show that NATO stands with Ukraine through continuous support to its armed forces and Ukraine's Euro-Atlantic aspirations. In the coming months, one crucial objective will be to substantially increase military support to Ukraine, to ensure deterrence on the ground and to prepare conditions for the future negotiations on peace. Ukraine's power must be significantly strengthened, and it now falls primarily on Europeans and Ukraine's closest neighbors and friends to make it happen. Ukraine also needs our investments in its defense industry. We must shift from reactive aid to solid military support, pre-planned deliveries of long-range artillery, advanced air defense systems, and drone capabilities. We'll still need progress on enhanced EU military support to Ukraine, with the whole goal to supply them with 2 million large-caliber shells. In times like these, unity is most important. Together, we are strong, and I am happy that we had very productive, frank conversation with our closest friends, and I hope it will be very helpful looking forward to the Hague summit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will now invite the President of Poland to continue.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to start by thanking my friend, President of Lithuania, Gitanas Nausėda, for organizing this year's Bucharest 9 summit in the wonderful city of Vilnius. I'm also very pleased that NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte and the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, participated in our deliberations. Moreover, I'm glad to emphasize the involvement of representatives from the Nordic countries in our discussion. This is indeed an important step towards building an integrated northeastern NATO security space. The upcoming NATO summit in The Hague will take place in only 3 weeks, so this is an excellent moment to discuss our expectations ahead of this very important gathering. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know too well that we are facing critical threats and challenges from Russia. In response, we have to make NATO stronger, but also fairer. Having in mind Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine and its aggressive attitudes towards the West, we must do everything to develop appropriate instruments that will deter the Kremlin's neo-imperial ambitions, especially here on the eastern flank. That is why our talks focused primarily on the urgent need to increase defense spending and on developing the production capabilities of national defense industries. I would like to recall, even before last year's NATO summit in Washington, I proposed to raise the defense spending by NATO members to the minimum level of 3% of their GDP. 3 months ago, I submitted to Secretary General Mark Rutte a request to raise this issue in The Hague. And today, I'm glad to see that we all agree on that and that our ambitions are even higher, up to 5% of GDP on defense. We hope that the allies will follow into our footsteps. Another key element of our discussions was strengthening the transatlantic relations and the strategic alliance with the USA. Among our partners in the region, there is a widespread understanding that Europe must take greater responsibility for its own security. But it is critically important to do it not by following mirages of European autonomy, but in close cooperation with the United States. We also had an opportunity to exchange information with President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy. During our conversation, we addressed very important issues regarding further support for Ukraine in its fight against Russia. Continuing our assistance to Ukraine in various domains, military, political, and humanitarian, is critical to security in Europe and is Ukraine's integrations with Europe and Euro-Atlantic structures, including NATO. Ladies and gentlemen, for me, today's meeting had a special significance, and it was my last opportunity to speak at this forum as President of the Republic of Poland. I have to emphasize that co-creating and later co-developing this format has been one of the most important and valuable aspects of my presidency. Over the past 10 years, the B9 has been an effective tool strengthening the voice of the eastern flank, countries within NATO, and helping us shape the alliance's deterrence and defense policy. I'm convinced that even after my term as President of Poland, Bucharest 9 will remain the best platform for coordinating security positions of our countries, allowing us to better manage the threats and challenges we face. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President Zelenskyy, please deliver your statement.
Thank you so much. Gitanas, Mr. President, it's important to be here in Vilnius today. Dear friends, partners, we all want the same thing: to stop the Russian war, to bring real peace, and to make security last. That's what we are all working for. First, I informed our partners about the situation at the front. We also talked about our operation inside Russia, which has seriously weakened their military. Operation Spiderweb showed that modern war really looks like, and why it's so important to stay ahead with technology. All our joint investments in drone production, all our shared battlefield experience, everything we are doing together with our partners, it's making Europe stronger. Today, we agreed with our partners on several joint decisions that will strengthen our defense even more. I thank everyone for your willingness to help. There will be new packages, there will be new investments in Ukraine's weapon production, especially drones. Ukraine can produce much more, and we see partner investments as a way to give those partners priority access to restock their arsenals after this war. Second, I thank you all for our shared view of what diplomacy needs in order to succeed. Today, we see the situation clearly. If Russia turns the Istanbul meeting into an empty talk, there must be a new level of pressure, new sanctions, and not just from Europe. We need to work on joint sanctions at the G7 level, including with the United States and with everyone in the world who wants peace. It's very, very important that each of our partners supports this exact approach. Sanctions against Russia are necessary. It's important to seriously limit Russia's oil trade and its use of tankers. Sanctions, including secondary ones, tariffs and price caps, can work and push Russia toward peace. Without pressure, Putin will just keep playing games with everyone who wants this war to end. Talks in Istanbul just ended, and I'm waiting for the Minister of Mayor full report. They exchanged documents through the Turkish side, and we are preparing a new release of prisoners of the war. Third, the upcoming NATO summit can strengthen Europe's security, or if it sends the wrong signal, it will only encourage Putin. The key to lasting peace is clear. The aggressor must not receive any reward for war. Putin must get nothing that would justify his aggression. Any reward would only show him that war pays off. Geopolitical gains are just as important to Russia as money or territory. If Putin is allowed to decide who joins NATO, where NATO infrastructure can or can't be, then Russia's appetite for war will only grow. Our shared goal is the opposite: to completely end Russia's hunger for aggression. Ukraine is doing its part, and I am grateful to all partners who are doing theirs. And we must act as one united Euro-Atlantic community. The NATO summit in June is the right place and the right time to send a clear message. Russia will not get anything from this war. Strong decisions are needed. Decisions for Europe, not for Putin. We all need to work together to make this really happen, and it's doable. Thank you, everyone who helped us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Zelenskyy. President of Romania, the floor is yours now.
For me, it's the first opportunity to participate as a president, and I've been very honored to be here, and I have to thank also to our host, very nice organization. So Bucharest 9 started 10 years ago. It was just after Russia attacked Crimea, and at that moment it was a potential threat of Russia against European nations. And it was a proposal in order that the countries on the eastern border or eastern flank of NATO have a common voice. Now that potential threat became real, we have a war in Ukraine for more than 3 years, and all our countries faced a set of hybrid actions. So it's reality, and for us, members of Bucharest 9, and also for our Nordic allies, we have the same concerns. As you know, most part of discussion were in order to prepare the Hague Summit, which will be in three weeks from now. And I'm very pleased that most of our participants agreed on very important things, like we need a stronger NATO, we need a stronger transatlantic connection, we have to not only to increase our expenses in defense, but also being able to produce military equipment in order to protect ourselves. And also that, as I said, the threat is not only classical military, but it's, we have very important hybrid actions against our countries. I'm also very pleased that all the participants agreed that we have to continue to support Ukraine. As a Romanian interest, I emphasize that we have a long-term concern on the security in the whole Black Sea area, including the Republic of Moldova. And I thank to our partner that they continue to support the Republic of Moldova in his European integration process. And finally, I proposed, I'm very pleased that everybody agreed that the next summit to be organized in Bucharest next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Madam Prime Minister, it's time for your statement.
Thank you, and dear Gitanas, thank you for hosting us today, and thank you for inviting the Nordic countries to join you here today in Vilnius. Today's meeting has been about one thing and one thing only: the security of our countries and the security of our continent, deterrence and defense. The threat from Russia against all of us is real, and it is serious. Russia is continuing the war in Ukraine. Putin is talking about peace during the day and bombing at night. We see a more aggressive Russia approach in the Baltic Sea region. And it is assessed by the Danish Defense Intelligence Service that Russia sees itself in conflict with the West and is preparing for war against NATO. It is therefore crucial that we take bold and necessary decisions at the NATO summit in The Hague in only 3 weeks from now. In my mind, and what we have discussed today, there's only one way forward. We need to invest massively in our collective security, all of us, and we need to do it fast. NATO is by far the strongest military alliance in history, and so our starting point must be to focus on what is needed to continue to be so, to secure deterrence and our ability to defend ourselves. But I have to say that Russia is not deterred merely by us agreeing on a new defense spending target. We need to deliver actual capabilities, and we need to do it fast. We must make sure that NATO always has the full range of capability necessary to deter and to defend against any threat against our countries. And at the same time, we need to continue our strong and steadfast support for Ukraine's brave fight for freedom. Let me be very frank, we have to donate what is needed on the battlefield. We had to provide more financing for arms production directly going into Ukraine. We already have a mechanism that works. And I think we have to implement stronger sanctions against Russia. It goes for the Shadow Fleet. Recently, we listed almost 200 additional vessels from the Russian Shadow Fleet, but more have to come against the Shadow Fleet, against Russian banks, financial sector. And I think we have to end any remaining dependency on Russian energy, including oil, gas, and nuclear energy. And to add one more thing, lower the oil cap. I think all that on the table would put the necessary pressure on Russia to get to the table and actually negotiate on peace. And why is that? Because Ukraine deserves peace. But the peace must be comprehensive, it must be just, and it must be lasting. And it has to respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. I'm sorry to say, I think until now we haven't seen any signs that Russia is willing to actually commit to any of that. So our key task at the moment has to be to put Ukraine in the strongest possible situation and position on the battlefield and or at the negotiation table. Europe, of course, needs a strong and an independent Ukraine. I believe that once again the coming month will be paramount, and we haven't got much time, and therefore we need commitment to take the right decisions on behalf of all Europeans now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Secretary General, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Nausėda, dear Gitanas. Thank you for hosting the B9 Nordic Summit here in Vilnius. It is a pleasure, always a pleasure to be back here in Lithuania. Lithuania is a staunch ally and continues to lead by example. You invest more than 4% of GDP in defense this year, and I welcome your plans to spend between 5 and 6% starting from next year. I think this sends an incredibly powerful message of commitment to our collective defense. And it also sets an example for our other allies. On this stage and in our meetings today, it is clear that the commitment to collective defense is strong. We have had a productive day of meetings as we continue to prepare for the summit in The Hague. We are facing the most dangerous security environment in decades. Russia's war of aggression continues, terrorist threats persist. We are not at war, but we are not at peace either. So we must continue to strengthen our deterrence and defense. And that means pivoting towards a full war-fighting readiness, providing significantly more forces that are well-trained, well-equipped, and supported with logistics, sustainment, and ammunition. We continue to count on the B9 and our Nordic allies to play a key role in these important efforts. At the The Hague Summit, I expect allies to demonstrate their enduring commitment to our collective defense by deciding to boost defense industrial production and increase defense investment. And this is simply essential to our security. And so is delivering on the new ambitious capability targets that allies are expected to agree later this week when the defense ministers will meet here in Brussels. Not here in Brussels, but in Brussels. Today, we also discussed Ukraine, a key priority for the summit in The Hague. Dear Volodymyr, we continue to support Ukraine. We know that a strong, sovereign Ukraine is essential for Euro-Atlantic security. So we have about 3 weeks left until the NATO summit in The Hague. And I look forward to working with all allies to ensure we deliver for our 1 billion people. Dear Gitanas, thank you again for your hospitality, your leadership, and your unwavering commitment to our alliance.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General. Dear journalists, we only have time for one question, which can be addressed to all the leaders, or some of them. Please indicate that. Martina, go ahead, please.
Hello, Martina Pichelita, news agency ELTA. I have a question to all of you. So with the announcement that America will review its troop presence in Europe, there has been some concern about a reduction in United States capabilities on NATO's eastern flank. So in this context, and given the fact that the current administration of the United States has reduced America's focus on Europe, what can be expected at the upcoming summit in Hague? Thank you.
I think we can do in the same order, like
Okay.
made your statement.
I will start. You know, I don't want to base my assumptions on the rumors. I would trust official information about the possible reduction of United States presence in Europe. So far, we have 1,000 US soldiers standing shoulder to shoulder with the soldiers of Germany, Norway, and other EFP countries. And we are ready to provide all necessary conditions even to increase this number, if there would be political will from the new American administration. So far, we are working on a broad range of activities, and I would like to remind you, last week, 100 meters from here, in the Cathedral Square, the Chancellor Friedrich Merz inaugurated the German brigade. Full-scale brigade will be deployed in Lithuania until 2027. And we are progressing on the all necessary infrastructure for German soldiers here. And those are my assumptions right now. So we are highly interested that United States focus on Europe remains, because this is a very important element of our collective security. And I hope that the Hague Summit will bring very positive news to this field. Thank you.
Mr. President Duda, what would be your answer to the question?
I can only answer that I had a few opportunities to talk with President Trump during last 6-7 months. I talked also with his secretaries, especially with Secretary Hexet. And I have no information about any ideas of withdrawing American military forces, US Army forces from our part of Europe, from eastern flank. So this is my answer.
President Zelensky, can you please give your views, or you can just...
He refers to me now. No, but then maybe we should...
About
can
NATO,
switch
it's
as
important to hear from you.
Okay, no, but let me be very straightforward here. Since January, I get 2 questions from European allies. Question 1 is the US still committed to NATO? The answer is yes. Committed to NATO, committed to Article 5, and this has been many times repeated by President Trump in many meetings. So my only suggestion to many European colleagues is put on your television so that you can hear him say this. Don't ask me, he's very clear about this. But there is an expectation. The expectation is that we are going to spend more, because we need to spend more for our defense, but also it is because it is fair to equalize our spending with the spending the US is doing currently. Second question, but then they will stay, Mark, but they might withdraw their troops all of a sudden. And exactly as President Duda is saying, there's absolutely no indication of this. What we know is that the US, next to Europe, of course, also has to take care of the Middle East, has to take care of the Indo-Pacific, and it is only logical that over time, as we are building up, that the US will pivot somewhat more towards Asia. But I am absolutely convinced that also in the long term, there will be a very strong conventional US presence in Europe, next to the nuclear presence, the nuclear umbrella, our ultimate guarantor of our freedom. There will be a very strong conventional presence of the US in Europe. There's no doubt about it. Now, basically referring back to what 2 other speakers have been saying.
Thank you. President Zelensky?
I agree with Mark.
Good answer. President of Romania, please.
Yes, so first of all, the United States presence in the eastern flank of NATO is extremely important for us, for all of us. So as I said, we have to strengthen the transatlantic connection. And on this regard, it's very, very important, our commitment on 3.5 plus 1.5. And I hope that we will take that decision in Hague.
Thank you. Madam Prime Minister,
Fine.
you have nothing to add. All right, so I would like to thank all the leaders. I would like to thank all the journalists.
So much.
Our press conference is over. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, dear friends.
Welcome to B9 and